Opioids are chemicals, drugs that mimic the effect of morphine. They kill pain. Alcohol damages all tissues of the body. So if smoking, you get cancer of your lungs.
Right.
Alcohol, you get cancer. You can get cancer all over your body. Obviously,
How about
you can't talk
people?
about India without talking about food and spices.
Oh, here we go. Here
That's
we
been
go. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he himself went into cleaning process to encourage around all the country. Thank you. Welcome, Nathan. Welcome
thank,
to our podcast.
thank you for having me, Vivek.
For sure. So, Nathan, here we're going to do some interesting podcast today. This is mainly about, I'm going to ask you how the real truth about America, right? Because
The fair truth about
fair truth
America.
of America, because everyone thinks America is very glory, and that's how they represent.
Right.
And being in America now, and me almost around 9 years, and you born and brought up here, so I think it's a very good understanding level we can get where you can give the real truth, real insight of America, where my audience also know and they make a decision out of it. Judge, right? Like we instead of seeing both sides, I think that's going to help them. So that is the whole concept today. Thank you for coming, really appreciate your time. And today audience, it is going to be very interesting podcast today, because we are going to see the truths where you don't find in the media, you don't find in the social media and any news channels. Nobody's going to reveal them, because a lot of pros and cons for that, because they don't want to, the secrets are hidden in every country, but that's the only way to get them out, is to meeting the real people, where they know the pain, they know the truth, they know the good things and bad things they brought up here. So this is going to be interesting podcast. Keep watching. Thank you. So here we are, my first question in our discussion. Let's start with, what is good thing about America? Let's start with good things, then we drill to the bad things. So can you please go ahead on that?
Well, if I may, you mentioned there's secrets hidden in America. I don't think it's necessarily all about that. I think a lot of it is just America has a very influential entertainment industry all over the world, and a lot of that is broadcasting a favorable message about America, American policies, democracy, and freedom all over the world. That's steeped in all this American media. And so whether it's conscious or unconscious, a lot of that is saying, hey, look at, we have the greatest value system in America. So I don't know if it's so much that things are hidden about America. We certainly have a lot of reporting is done about problems in America. But America has a really good marketing department, essentially.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because even my parents, they're in India, they're in a small town. Whatever happens here in United States, like let's say there is a shooting somewhere, and let's say there is a increase in the tariffs or anything. Before even knowing to me, my parents already know that. And when I talk to them and they tell me, like, how fast is that going to, it's just spreading.
Right.
As you said, the marketing is fantastic.
You can't escape news about America wherever you are in the world. Yes, that's certainly
For sure.
true.
Yeah, and it always have a big impact on everyone's life. Like whatever the decisions they make, it going to have a big impact in all over the country, especially Indian community, because
it's not easy to get into America. It's not getting easier. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah. Why is that?
So,
why they make it
but
so
you want to
strict?
have a fair view of America before you make a big decision to visit America or to move to America. Even I think you want to go into that situation without rose-colored glasses, as it were.
Oh, sure. But why it is so difficult to get into America? Why they want to screen it that much? Where in other countries they may care, but it's not like it's too complicated to get into the other country. If I have little money, at least to go and see, visit, and come back, and it's very easy. Why it's so difficult to get into America? Why they want to do that?
I think a lot of that is supply and demand. If you ask people, you go around the world and you ask people, what's the number one country you would want to move to if you move to a country? A large fraction of people are going to say America in that.
Yeah, and there are a lot of
in part that's because of America's really good marketing in the world. So whether if they had perfect knowledge of every country in the world, what would they decide? That we can't really answer that question.
Right.
But,
I mean, It's when before I moved into America, I thought, okay, roads are so nice that there won't be no, there is no construction going on the road. Like there is a dumps
Actually,
and there is a
the reason the
bad
roads are
road.
nice is because there is construction on the roads. You
Yeah,
got to fix
there
them
is
and
there is
repair them.
always a construction, which is good part. But I also wondered before I moved into America, I thought there is no way there is even a patch on the road because I thought it
Right.
should be that
Perfect.
clean.
Everything should be perfect.
That
Yes.
everything is precisely
Yep.
perfect. That
And
kind of a picture
that's
I
certainly not
have.
true. Yes.
But when I come here, it's definitely not true. I'm not being mean or anything here, but definitely not true because I drove to the places where it's the roads are not that great,
Mhm.
and also a lot of different things. We get into that deeper, but let's get more of your perspective of how is the American lifestyle about the living, like how was a normal American monthly average expenses, how much they make.
Mhm.
Can you please give an insight on that? That would be great as
I think what's more important actually to understand about this is that America has a lot of stuff and a smaller number of people. And in India, there's a larger number of people distributing a smaller amount of physical goods. And I think a lot of the economic realities in those two countries arise out of that physical reality. Because so if you got rid of all the money in the world, if you could snap your fingers and
right.
the economics of the dollars and rupees and all that just stops existing, you're still left with the fact that there's an abundance of goods in America and there's a scarcity of goods in some cases in India.
Right.
And so that simple fact, I think, shapes a lot of the problems in America and the problems in India. So like, for instance, suspended road dust in India, which is something I've seen in the news as a health concern for
It
Indian
is.
people.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is simply having the physical infrastructure, the physical resources to build a huge number of roads here in America and having less infrastructure ability to go around in India. So in America, we have a large number of street sweepers. Every town is going to have a large piece of equipment
But
that's
not
basically a large vacuum cleaner, and that
but
goes
not
around.
physically though. That's the biggest problem we are facing currently.
Mhm.
Is in India there are a lot number of sweepers, like the government has enormous number of people. They all get paid.
Let me maybe
Oh
finish
yeah, please
my
please go ahead.
example,
Hmm.
because and we say, why does India have this problem with suspended dust?
Yeah.
And we've figured out some amazingly clever way to deal with that in America. It's not so much that there's an amazingly clever way. It's just there's a greater abundance of physical infrastructure and equipment to handle that. So, say, how would one solve that problem or address that problem in India? It's make the roads wider and have more resources dedicated to road cleaning,
Yeah,
right?
but the problem is we
And
don't
that's
have geographically we are the America is very way larger than India, right? So we have a large number of population as you mentioned earlier. Then we cannot afford to have that large in a size of a roads and
exactly.
equipments and everything. So instead, what we do, we go with the sweepers. That is what I'm getting into earlier when I cut you off. I'm sorry about that.
No, please.
So we have a large amount of sweepers. Government hires them. They sweep. They try to maintain the roads clean and everything. In the morning when you go, even for a walking in India, it's very clean. Everything is clean because everything is already clean. The sweepers did their job and everything. And by the time evening, when it comes to evening, then everything is dirty again. Everything is everywhere, and they're trying way better now. They have the different policies now. Such Bharat. There are a lot of policies like so where they're trying to clean, they're trying to keep it clean, they're trying to sweep. Even our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he himself went into cleaning process to encourage around all the country. Everyone is aware about it now actually, but we don't have those many big equipments. Do you think that will solve the problem?
Um, yeah, I think this is. I don't want to get maybe necessarily too caught up in the street sweeping example, but yeah, I think this is exemplary of how things are done in America versus how things are done in India. In America, the solution, and in fact, the most economical solution for many tasks, is to hire a large piece of equipment,
Right.
right? And again, I think that it just stems from the physical abundance of equipment we have in this country, per person as compared to in other parts of the world and in India. Versus in India, the most economical way to do something because of the relative amounts of those two resources is to hire people to do those things. So we
Right.
like in America, we couldn't afford to hire people to do that. We couldn't have a team of 20 workers who replace the job of a piece of equipment. Hiring the piece of equipment is much more economically
Right.
advantageous in America. A lot of it just comes from we do things differently because it's cheaper to use equipment in this country versus to use lots of manual labor.
Wow. That's really beautiful way you put it. That in a way you're saying in America they cannot afford for the labor, but in India,
Right.
whereas
The relative value.
it's cheaper to get
Yes.
in labor. So in one of
Yes.
my recent videos I made with one of my friend, that I asked her why it is why you're painting your home. Like in India we don't paint our homes
Right.
because we are like, okay, we pay someone and
You
they
would
do
hire
it, and
someone.
boom, they just we pay the money, we're good. We don't need to learn it, we don't need to buy those equipment, and we don't need to do that, we don't need to spend our time and effort on it.
Correct.
Whereas coming to American, they try to paint themselves. And when I asked her, she told me this interesting answer where she said she cannot afford it to
Yep.
hire someone.
To hire somebody to paint a house, a standard size house in America might be $3,000 to $5,000 American
Wow.
dollars.
Wow, this is enormous amount. Like it's when it let's put in the rupees for my viewers to say it's approx aroundish like 3 to 4 lakhs, and we cannot afford that much for the painting. The most we give for the entire house is around maybe 30,000 or 20,000. I'm not even sure, to be honest, but that is my approx thinking. Around maybe 50,000 is the most where we get the entire house, including the equipment, including the color and everything comes under it. So Nathan, let's jump into the different aspect of this conversation. As American, now we get to know a little bit taste of America, right?
Okay.
Now let's know, what do you know about Indian, what do you think about Indian culture?
Well, I think there's a tendency, and when you travel the world, this is the first thing you have to let go of. There's a tendency to view other countries as monoliths. Everyone in that country thinks the same thing. Everybody agrees with what the government does or what the opposition party says.
Yeah, it's
And
everywhere.
that's not true in America.
Yeah.
There's incredible diversity of opinions and different type of people and lifestyles, and India is is going to be the same way. I think of India as like, what if Europe was all one country, because India is such a diverse group of people that have all been unified, and that was an incredible achievement of democracy and bureaucracy and state building. But yeah, I think India is, as a developing nation, it has that scarcity of resources compared to we have overabundance of resources in some cases.
Right.
If you look at our waistlines. Uh, Obviously,
How
you
about
can't talk
people?
about India without talking about food and spices.
Oh, here
That's
we
I
go.
mean
Here
that's
we go.
been you just look at the history of India. That's been hugely influential. Obviously,
What is your favorite?
the history, we should have a shared history with British, as being former British
The rolling
colonies. Is
dam.
a very
Right,
very
right, right.
painful history
But
all
we
associated with
make
that.
them run away though.
And yeah, we beat them. We got them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
So
part. Yeah.
that's
That's
I
a
think that's
salute to
something we
all the
share.
freedom fighters for sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you, guys.
So what do you think about the people? Like, do you met a lot of Indian people? Like, do you have a conversation with them other than me? Like, do you
Sure.
have any I think you met a few Indian people, and what you noticed in them, which you think were different than general population of American, what it is.
Um, I think a lot of it is things that are common to any group of people that's first generation immigrants into America. There's first generation immigrants tend to be the stereotype is, at least, and I think it's
Yeah.
based in some ways on truth, is that the first generation tends to be very hardworking and upstanding, and just it as I said, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to get into America, and that
Right.
kind of acts as a filter. If you don't have a lot of drive, you're not gonna make it through all those hoops and make it through that process to
Right.
even reach America. So there's a selection effect, I would think. But yeah, no, all the Indians I've known have been just extremely generous and kind people.
That sounds
very
good. Yeah, I'm not
warm.
bragging.
No,
I'm not
that's
bragging because I'm Indian, but really, I know
yeah,
I feel very
definitely.
comfortable with them somehow.
Oh,
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
let's be part of the podcast.
yeah, yes.
And like I said, hardworking,
Mhm.
super smart. Some of the smartest people I know in college were Indian people. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
I'm sorry
just wanted to finish. Sorry,
I'm
just wanted to
sorry
finish my list there.
I'm sorry we are taking all the
But yeah,
IT
we got to.
jobs
That's all
and
the time we have for today. Sure.
we are just stealing all your jobs and everything. I'm sorry about that,
Oh,
but
okay, yeah.
what you
No,
gotta
no,
do,
no
you know,
worries.
we
No,
gotta
no worries
accept
about
that,
that.
you know, we got the smart people, like a lot of big companies like Google, Microsoft, and everyone. They have all these CEOs are Indians. Then you know, it's like it's proven fact. I'm not bragging because I'm Indian, but it's good. It's good that you know they're taking their.
The Indian diaspora has, I think, one of the great strengths of India. Yeah, actually,
It's
I
true.
think that's
Yeah.
true.
So Nathan, now we're coming to the different aspects of questions and answers. So in our conversation, let's turn a little bit into how America take care of the drugs problem. Do you think America really have the drugs problem, or that's
Mm.
what they say that oh they do drugs or oh they
Right.
don't do drugs, or it's like not black and white and like how it is? Can you please tell me as the truth?
Sure. Yeah, there's a big opioid problem in America. I know
Can you
that.
explain what is the opioid in general for my
Opioids.
audience?
Sure. Opioids are chemicals, drugs that mimic the effect of morphine. They make you. They kill pain. They can cause euphoria. Basically you take them and you feel good. And the problem with that is you do that once and wow, I want to do that all the time. And
Oh,
we're
it's like
not.
that's how the addiction starts.
No, that's not a way to live. So, but yeah, opioids, and the dangerous thing about opioids is that if you take too much of them, it can stop your heart and you can die. And that's
Yeah, and a lot of
there's
people
a
we see dying on the streets in the when you go to downtown, and they're dying of a OD. They call it overdose, but
Yes.
isn't it?
Addiction and homelessness are definitely connected. A lot of the people who are homeless because either because of addiction or it's a cycle. If you're homeless, okay, what else am I going to do? Might as well get some drugs and do that and have a way to feel good. And then because you're doing drugs and you're not doing anything to change being homeless, then
So we are in the
you're
loop
still,
that
yeah. There's a
there
cycle.
is no way out. There is
There's
no
a
way out.
vicious cycle.
Then
Um,
how the government will help in this matter? How the we see Americans spend thousands of dollars, like millions of dollars on this, right? How it going to really help?
the science on this and the policy, the times that we've tried different policies on this, has consistently said the way to address opioids and other kinds of drug addiction, alcohol use is also incredibly damaging in the United States. I don't want to say it's just opioids, but
Even the alcohol. Are you
even
serious?
alcohol. Alcohol is damages all tissues of the body.
Oh,
So if smoking, you get cancer of your lungs.
right.
Alcohol, you get cancer. You can get cancer all over your body.
Oh,
Alcohol
really?
is
But
a
what kind of alcohol? But there is a different shade in the
nope.
alcohol, like in the.
Anything that contains ethanol, the active ingredient of alcohol, the ingredient that makes you drunk, ethyl alcohol, is a known human carcinogen. So
So
every part of the body, so your mouth, throat, your digestive system, your liver, your blood, your circulatory system, your heart, um, your lungs, all these tissues are negatively affected.
even the
Essentially, your whole body is
even the
negatively, and
beer.
the brain, of course,
Yeah, I
the
mean
whole body is negatively affected by
even the
alcohol.
beer.
Even beer, yes, any type of alcohol.
You're scaring my audience. They don't. They may not drink any more
Um,
beers or alcohol
well,
anymore.
alcohol is something that is nice to enjoy in moderation. But yeah, the problem with again, the problem with that is it is addictive.
How about
Um,
only doing drinking in the weekends, like how most people do? They work Monday to Friday, and Saturday, Sunday,
sure.
they just forget themselves and they're just so drunk. But you think that is also comes under an excessive, or that is on the moderation side?
Um, Excessive and moderation. That line depends on how that's affecting your life, is what I would say.
Right.
Um,
I mean, definitely their wives got
there
to fight
are
with
there are
them, but
there are there are medical criteria for how many drinks a week is considered excessive drinks. But yeah, I think it's mostly about how much what is the impact on your life. If you're able to have a few beers on the weekend, go do and that helps you de-stress and get through the week.
yeah. So the
Having lower stress is also a health benefit, right? So
right.
I think you have to balance, but those two factors.
So
But
the whole
you said
purpose.
what could the
Uh-huh.
government do about
Right. Yeah, please.
addiction and
Yeah.
drugs? I mean, the science has consistently said that the best way to address that is by treating addiction as what it is, which is a medical problem. The worst way to deal with drug addiction is to criminalize drug addiction. So don't know which direction we're going to go in this. I hope our new administration will see the wisdom of that. But that
Yeah.
the science has said that that's the best way to help addicts and not to just trap them in a cycle of addiction.
Yeah. Like even I don't understand this part. The government is trying to, okay, if they're addicted, they're with some substance or they're homeless, they try to give them charges, they send them to the jail,
Right.
and they come out, and if you have any record on your name, then you don't get any job, and if there is no job, then there is no money, and if there is no money, then you keep doing the same thing, you steal or you do something or you do drugs, you
Right.
sell drugs, and then you live in a fear, then you get caught and then you go to the jail. Like I don't see government helping in any way. I'm not
Right.
saying you should give a job and someone have a record because it's threatened to the other people in the company. I get it, but at the same time they must have their own communities, their own workshops,
Mhm.
own place where they get paid,
Right.
even though they have record. Some kind of employment they should be providing, right?
There
Is there
has
any way
yes.
that government is doing this thing?
Yeah, there has to be a path to reentry into society. Otherwise, you're going to have high recidivism rates. Now, in America, oftentimes the jail and the prison system winds up being, by de facto, the homeless shelter of last resort or the mental health facility of last resort for people that are in
And
crisis. We closed all the
mhm,
mental health facilities in this country and basically said, let's put them in the jails. And the problem is jails aren't designed for that. They're not mental health. They're not equipped as a
yeah,
mental
and
health
they
facility
get
would
more
be.
aggressive in the jails, I guess, right? Like they get
And
more
it becomes a
aggressive, so it
stigma
becomes
and
more,
yes.
they feel like, okay, I'm this person now, so what, and then they don't even try to be better person,
Right.
and government is not showing a way. I think that's a huge drawback. I see it in
Right.
any country. It's not only America, it's everywhere. Once you're labeled with something, there should be a way out. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, America is still a majority Christian nation, I believe, demographically speaking, and certainly one of the fundamental tenets in Christianity is forgiveness.
Right. I don't
Um,
see that forgiveness at all in the government, and somehow, to be
sure.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the problem with stigmatizing addiction and homelessness and mental illness instead of treating them as mental and physical health problems.
Right. But that costing government a lot of money when they're sending, once they come out of the jail. In the jail itself, it's not free. They give the food, they
Right.
give the shelter, they give the water, they give a roof. That
J-
means it's
yes.
charging them something. And this jail, whoever the prisoners, they're not going to pay anything towards it. Then someone is going to invest on that. And
Mhm.
guess someone is who? Is a taxpayer.
Jail isn't free, and the emergency room isn't free. In many cases, homeless people, when they need mental health or physical health intervention, the only place they can go is the emergency room or the emergency department in at the local hospital, and that is the most expensive way to receive medical care. So we're spending enormous. We're actually. It seems like a homeless person wouldn't be consuming a lot of societal resources, but actually it's an enormous burden because they're in the in the emergency room. They're in and out of jails. They're in and out of prison in some cases, in and out of homeless shelters. The other big problem is that in most homeless shelters, you cannot be in any way under the influence of drugs or have drugs or and any of that stuff is not allowed. So it becomes a catch-22, because to get into a better housing situation, they would need to be off drugs. But to be off drugs, they need to be in a better in a better housing situation. So how do you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which is of course impossible, which is the original meaning
Yeah,
of the
it
phrase.
is like
So
it's looks like a loop.